Hello. What an absolute honour it is to be on this side of the stage for once. EMF camp is fantastic, isn't it? So yeah, I'm here to talk about my experience working in Antarctica. I am by no means an expert. There are so many people who have spent so much time out there. They've done winters. I was there for just 6 months. So, you know, I'm by no means going to be able to talk to you about everything. But I can give you my experience. And so the slides here is basically just a whole load of photos that I'm presenting, and they're going to be presented in chronological order, pretty much, from when I took them, so that you can kind of see my experience going through that time. I love this photo. This is a little bit of art that someone had left at Rothera Research Station. And so, you can kind of see all the crazy things that might be happening there. And there's a guy in the corner saying, "I'm bored." And that just seems to sum up a lot of that place, is that you so quickly become acclimatized to all the crazy things that might be happening out there. So this is my penance, really, for a guaranteed ticket for EMF. I'm not really good at public speaking, but here I am. Yeah, so Antarctica, working there, what people don't realise, well, you probably do realise, especially this crowd, we're responsible for generating our own power, water, heating. We're also responsible for managing waste, and that's general waste, recycling, human waste, and that's poo and wee, not like getting rid of bodies. We're also responsible for managing and maintaining an airport there as well, a runway, communications, myriad of other things as well. So, there's a lot of things going on all the time. And so this was the team that was coming out with me. At this point, I didn't really know what to expect. I had like an idea of perhaps I'll be there surrounded by Antarctic wildlife, penguins, seals, for example. Watched that David Attenborough documentary with the orcas, where they're swimming and they're trying to knock the seals off the iceberg. And I have this idea that being out there is going to be this wonderful experience. You're going to experience all of these amazing things. But really, you're going to be going out there to work. So actually, I wasn't entirely sure if any of that would ever come true. I had this massive idea, that's what it was going to be like. But really, I might just be there all day, just slaving away. So we flew from the UK down to Brazil, into Chile, and then we had about a week in Chile before we flew south. Working in Antarctica, it's quite a challenging place to get to. So we were stuck in the South America for about a week. And while we were there, we were getting photos from the team there. And so the tower station team, the guys that are running the flights, all of that stuff, they're kind of the early people that show up to make sure that the rest of us can then get in. And so that was some of the gear that was given to me by BAS. So I was working for British Antarctic Survey out there. I'm not representing them here today. I'm just here because I wanted a ticket. And so we got stuck. We were in Rio de Janeiro for a few hours, so we took the opportunity there to have a few beers as we then flew on to then Santiago and then Punta Arenas in the south of Chile. And we had a week there. It was fantastic. It was a really good opportunity to kind of get to know everybody. Again, have a few drinks, have some food, spend a few days there. We had a lovely time. It was fantastic because all of this is being paid for. Accommodation, food, great. Absolutely loved it. Wild horses, dolphins. This is amazing. What a great experience. Like my experience, I've worked as my apprenticeship at Rutherford Laboratory, so I spent 4 years there. 20 years I've spent working at the University of Sheffield. So, doing these kind of crazy things isn't really like, part of my life. So I'd kind of put in a speculative application to work at Rothera. It was post-COVID. I was a bit depressed. I was like, oh God, I don't know what to do. I was literally Googling jobs away from everyone else. How do I get away from everybody else for a little while? So I applied for a job with BAS, working in Antarctica, and crazily, they gave me a job. And so from the South America, we took the Dash, which is the one plane they use going in and out of Antarctica. It's a very old piece of kit, needs a lot of maintenance, but it's very robust. And so this was my flight in. This was the first viewing I had of Antarctica. I was like, wow, this is incredible. We're nearly there. And then we come into land and we get off the plane, drop our bags off. And the first thing I wanted to do was go out for a bit of a walk. So my mate Logan took us out for a nice walk. You go around the point, and once you've done that, once you've done it once with someone who's already done it, you'll have to go off and spend a bit of time on your own to go and do these walks around the point, they call it, which is like a big round walk. You can see there how deep the snow is. And so this was my very first day. We're out there in the snow, and my idea of suddenly being surrounded by Antarctic wildlife was straight away. That was the first seal I saw. First thing I did was go out on a walk, see a seal, fantastic. See a penguin, nailed it. Like I'm seeing all the things I wanted to see. We were walking around, these penguins, they're very inquisitive. They love coming over, seeing what you're up to. You're walking around, and they just jumped on the floor and slid over on their bellies. So cute, amazing. I was like, how can this be my life already? This is incredible. What a wonderful place to be. I had an idea of seeing all these penguins, the seals, the whales, orcas, riding a skidoo. And I was like, oh, as long as I get to ride a skidoo, like that would be amazing. I'd have so much fun. I'd just passed a test on a motorbike back home, so I was like, yeah, man, I would love to ride a skidoo. But I probably won't get to do it. First week, no, man, we were straight on it. They were like, yeah, man, you got to get trained up because you might need to use them in an emergency. You might need to be trawling stuff around. So we were just out on these skidoos straight away, having a fantastic time. I do wish I hadn't worn my high vis for this because it's not as cool. Like, I wish I was wearing like a cool parka or something. And so we took the day out, and we go out and we go to the caboose, which is here, which is like a little hut. And its primary function is for shelter. So there's a skiway. So obviously we've got a runway, but there's a separate skiway for when the weather's really bad, so the planes can land elsewhere, and then if someone comes in and the weather's bad and they're landing at the skiway, they've got a place to shelter. So in there's like tea, coffee, enough things for people to survive for a day or two. So one of the greatest things we did then was, again, first week, made a nice cup of tea at the caboose, sat outside drinking my tea in Antarctica. Is there anything more British than that? And it was, absolutely incredible. We had a great time. Look at that stupid jacket. I would look so cool without that, I think. Again, first week, we're seeing the halo effect around the sun caused by ice particles in the sky. This photo here was literally the door to my room. So every time I walked out in the morning, this is what I would see every single day. So obviously, we had a lot of great fun, we had a lot of great times, we got to do some amazing things while we were there, but there was a lot of work as well. And for a lot of my time on the station, so I was working there as the electrician. For a lot of the time, I was the only electrician on site, so I was really working hard. I was on call 24 hours a day for a lot of it. And so, I am going to bring in the work as well, because that was a big part of what we were doing. It wasn't just the fun. So these are some chart recorders we used. That was for a fire suppression system. So a lot of the buildings, they either have fire suppression in. After some years ago, when one of the labs burned down, they didn't necessarily have the facilities out there to help fight the fires. Working on, this was the back of an oven. This is, we'll skip that one. So within, again, a couple of weeks, I was talking about the orcas. There they were, and you can see them. They're straight away. They are swimming in unison to create a wave to knock those seals off so they can eat them. I'd seen that on David Attenborough. I was like, wow, now I'm here. I'm seeing it in real life. Everyone showed up for it. Everyone was so impressed. One of the guys actually someone said that judging by the markings on the face, they thought it was the same pod that was shown on Frozen Planet. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I'd like to say it is. So I'm going to stick with that. So we actually saw the seals that were on Frozen Planet. Seals? Orcas. Famous orcas. Brilliant. And everyone showed up for that. It was a great time, apart from for the seals. Sorry, guys. But then the next, you're seeing all this, amazing, and then an hour later, the trash compactor is knackered. So then, you're just straight back to work. And so here, they have got a lot of fire suppression there, especially now. So that's one of the fire trucks we used. These are some temporary lights we put out. Well, I never actually had to use them. These were put out, they get put out on the runway when the planes are coming in, if the visibility is very poor. This is the bar. So everyone had an opportunity, well, you could volunteer behind the bar. I did it once. I got the photos. I prefer, again, being on the other side of the bar. Like here, I think I prefer being on that side. But yeah, I get it. So it was amazing. There was a lot of work. But then in your downtime, we didn't really have a lot to do. So we kind of just had to make our own fun. So this was in one of the bedrooms. We just thought it was funny to put our heads between the curtains and move it up and down. And take some photos of us doing a bit of a ridiculous photo shoot. Well, we had nothing else to do. In the evenings, the bar was fun. You know, we had a good time. Very limited on what you can drink. I think it was 2 beers a night, 3 days a week. So you know, they kind of make sure they look after us in that way. But we still, you know, had a lot of fun. So the caboose that I was mentioned earlier, although that was, you know, its primary function is to act as a shelter, you can also use it for recreational purposes. So you can go and spend the night there, you know, skiing, snowboarding. You can head out there, and there's quite a gentle slope there for skiing and snowboarding. And this is probably the most Antarctic photo you'll see. It's almost pure white. It seems to sum up quite nicely. And if you see on the left, there's someone there, Katie, who was a great skier, and there's me on the right trying to snowboard for the first time, which was basically me just sliding down the slope on my bum. But again, I got a good photo of me with a snowboard in Antarctica, so that's cool, but I'm wearing the stupid jacket. We also had to do maintenance for the breathing apparatus. So again, in the case of a fire, you might have to go in, save people, get them out. So one of my jobs was to maintain the breathing apparatus. More seals. These are leopard seals. So there was one mother leopard seal and a little pup. These weren't my photos. Most of them are mine. These ones weren't. These were a guy who does a lot of photography, and he can get a much better photo than I can. But these guys were like the darlings of the base for a couple of weeks. You know, everyone was checking up on them every day. They were beautiful. And then, at some point early on in the season, the ship shows up. This ship is the Sir David Attenborough, the SDA, and that is definitely its name. It is definitely the Sir David Attenborough. It's not Boaty McBoatface. It's definitely the SDA. So yeah, you know, I'll end up leaving on this ship. It was 5 days voyaging through the sea, but they would show up and we could do a refuel, so we'd have to refuel the station, so we'd pump tons of fuel off the ship to our fuel farm, and there'll be some photos of that later. So some of the fun things we got to do on an evening, this is the chefs, a couple of the chefs here, Patrick and Olive in the background there. They did around Christmas time, a gingerbread making evening. So, you know, lots of people come down, have a bit of fun, make some gingerbread in the big industrial kitchen that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily get to go in. And as we're all adults, no one made any silly shaped gingerbread. Definitely not. And so, yeah, on the base, you can literally just walk out the door and see just these whales. So, you know, you've got whales, you've got penguins coming flying across. Well, not flying. That's one thing they can't do. But, you know, breaching from the water. And like I say, they're very curious animals. And so there he is there, having a look at the SDI, trying to figure out what's going on. This was just at Christmas time, so fantastic. That is Santa being delivered on his sleigh from the SDA. That was unexpected. That was great fun. But we still celebrate Christmas out there, so we get to sit around, have a nice meal, maybe get like an extra drink on Christmas Day. Fantastic. All these wonderful people. You get to meet so many amazing people working there. Everyone there is so clever and hardworking, and a little bit, well, like this crowd, I guess. They're really kind of like, just the best at what they do, really good at problem solving, just wonderful people to be around. There were some unusual penguins around. This sinister penguin caused a lot of problems around station. I saw him as I was taking out a skidoo. He wouldn't get out of my way, absolute causing havoc all over the place. And so as part of as I was saying about the refueling, so this was my thing as we were setting up the refueling, so we had to run these pipes all the way along the runway up to the fuel farm. So this was us just getting set up before we started testing the pipe work. That is someone taking a very creepy photo of me through a binocular. And so my job as we were refueling was just to walk the line, just to make sure it's not leaking, as we're pumping tons and tons of diesel and aviation fuel through these, and you just got to spend all day just walking up and down. The plumbers would sit on their ass just counting the numbers as the fuel went in. My job was to actually do the hard work and go up and down and check it all out. But even that could have been quite boring anywhere else in the world, but even that, just walking up and down the same spot was amazing. You get the penguins wandering about, so that is us running the fuel up from the SDA. A couple of penguins just, I assume they're just discussing what we're up to. Those silly humans. Weird icebergs just show up. Like, I was terrible at snowboarding, but I'm sure someone could do something with that. It's amazing. And so, yeah, in the bar on an evening, sometimes if we would be out, we could pull some glacial ice out of the water and then use that in our drinks. And we're using ice that could be tens of thousands of years old to cool our drinks. And it's got little bubbles of air in it that probably haven't been exposed to anything in all those thousands of years. And yeah, we all turned out fine. Have you ever seen The Thing? So this is New Year's Eve. So there's a point up there where they have a little memorial cross for people that have lost their lives out there. Bass haven't lost anyone for a long time now. But this was midnight, so obviously we were there, height of summer. Midnight, it's still daylight, so you're dealing with 24-hour daylight all the time. For most of the time I was there. We had a great time. That was up on the point. It's a good photo. But then next day you're back at work. So these are PAPI lights. I expect a lot of people here have an understanding of aircraft and that kind of thing. But so these lights are indicate to the planes that are coming in. It indicates their altitude. So each light has a bank of red and white lamps and a lens. So as you approach, or as the pilots approach, they can see if they're at the right altitude as they're coming in. So what they would see, looking at that, is it'll either be red or white. And so if they're at the right altitude, two of them will be showing white and two of them will be showing red. And so we do that by kind of identifying the exact angle of these lights. So unfortunately, as one of the planes had already set off, the lights had failed. And I was called in at last minute to kind of try and get these back up and running again. It was an incredibly high-pressure situation. A plane's coming in, the lights aren't working. I need to get them back up and running, and you're trying to open them up, and the snow's blowing sideways as you're trying to get this open. And then you realise that, well, this is getting way too wet. I need to take it up to the workshop, do a little bit of work on it, try and get it back up and running. Incredible amount of pressure to get it done on time. But that's what you're dealing with out there. Here's some bread. So one of the great things about working in Antarctica is that all of the food's prepared for you, unless you're the chef. So we can't just go down the shop and buy some bread. So we've got freshly baked bread every day. They really fed us well. There'll be more photos of food coming up. We had a French chef, Olive, who loved doing his desserts, and this is the kind of stuff he would serve up for us. Again, this is the caboose. This was a little bit of a casual time where we went up, spent the night, had a little chill out. All of us sat around. We had allotted 2 drinks and spent the evening there, which was great. Had a fun time. That was my accommodation. I was in one of those tents. It was pretty awful, but it definitely got worse from there. But one of the great things you get to do there is go out as a co-pilot. Well, not everyone, but I got to go out as a co-pilot. It was fantastic. I went out as a co-pilot on the dash, going down to Sky-Blu via Fossil Bluff. This was me inside the cockpit as a co-pilot, and my mate, Dave, who was one of the pilots. So when we get up in the air, obviously he's doing the takeoff, he's doing the landing. He gets me up in the air and he's like, right, so you're co-pilot, you're taking over the plane. Do you want me to teach you how to drive a plane? And I'm like, yes, that'd be great. He goes, right, take the stick. He goes, that's down, that's up, that's left, that's right. Follow the GPS, off you go. And that was it. I was like, okay, this is absolutely incredible. I can't believe I am doing this. It's amazing. And he just sat there doing his paperwork, and I'm flying a plane over flipping Antarctica. Thanks, guys. This is amazing. It was a great job. It was a great job. It was hard work. It was a great job. And that's Dave, who was the pilot, who was a friend of mine, one of the coolest guys you would ever meet. Fantastic. And this was us approaching into Fossil Bluff. And this was us landing at Fossil Bluff. I've turned the sound off. It's not really that exciting. The plane comes down. It lands successfully. It's fine. There's no problems. So we'll probably skip that one. We had a great time, but that's where we were then refueling. So we knew that the weather was coming in, so we were a bit concerned. So we spent about half an hour refueling the plane and then waiting to see what was going to happen. I got some great photos of me with a plane looking. That was, yeah. So that was Fossil Bluff. We spent some little time in the melon hut, as they call it. So it's a semi-permanent structure that stays there. But we decided that because the weather was coming in, it was quite bad, we would have to hike up to the shelter. So we had a long old walk up to the shelter. Great, fantastic. And then we were there for maybe 4 or 5 hours playing Trivial Pursuit. I had a little nap. And then we got back in the plane and flew off to Sky-Blu. And accommodation in Sky-Blu that was my accommodation. I was in there on my own. It was a 6-man tent. It was freezing. I was woken up in the morning with the condensation of my breath had condensed on the inside of the tent, frozen, and was then falling into my face. Which, you know, I know what I signed up for. I guess I probably wanted more of that. So yeah, this is at Sky-Blu. This is what do they call it? The weather haven. This kind of sums up exactly what's going on at Sky-Blu. A lot of people waiting around. They're doing some great stuff out there, and it's a good kind of jumping off point for getting into the deeper parts of Antarctica. But because of where it is, there can be a lot of waiting around for weather to pass, that kind of thing. I tried to read a couple of books. I found this book that someone had written, their own synopsis in the front, which says, a fairly pointless book. It's about an annoying brat who needs a good thrashing. Can anyone guess what that book might be? Harry Potter? No. I've only asked this once and someone got it first time. Sorry? No, it's Catcher in the Rye. Catcher in the Rye. And yeah, more photos of Sky-Blu. They've built a garage there underground, so they've dug out all the ice. It's really cool. And the reason we were out there was to set up for refueling of Sky-Blu. And so they do that by using the Atlas A400. It's coming in and just dropping barrels of fuel down there. And that's the replacement for the Hercules, for people that know about planes. Yeah, so that was it. Some great photos there. And then back on station with the boys. So there's a couple of guys there, Logan and Alfie, a couple of other techs. And you know, we kind of hung out together. And like I say, everyone there is really cool. We had a great time together. We would occasionally throw snowballs in each other's faces. But again, you know, you've got all that fun stuff, but again, a lot of it's work as well. So, you know, I think this was me, I don't remember what I was doing there, checking on some float levels possibly of some water tanks. More seals, more penguins, gators, like you see around here. That was how we'd often get around station when the snow wasn't as bad that it required the skidoos to get around. At no point was I trying to perform Mario Kart style power slides on the gravel and ice in those. That did not happen. That was pretty much how I started every single day. Just in my gear, 5 minutes left. SDA, this is the HMS Protector. I came in for a second refueling. So again, refuel time, that was a big part of the work there. Again, plumbers, like I said, don't tend to do a lot. Me and Alfie working hard, checking out on the fuel situation. And this was us laying out the fuel lines. This was my hat getting stolen by an Antarctic skewer. If you want to know what the accommodation is like, that was my bed. You know, it was also sometimes social rooms as well. But again, fantastic time, fantastic people. This is the Genimec Nash. So these are Volvo marine generators. We have 4 of them on station. Generally, they try and be running 1 or 2 at a time, with a 3rd to go online and a 4th being maintained. Logan Smells. This was pretty much every single day, just getting covered in snow as you're out and about. This was Olive's last day as chef before he left. He put on a real treat for us, absolutely stuffed our faces with loads of sweets, fantastic. An elephant seal who was on site caused some havoc, absolute beast. Look at the size of that. He's bigger than a generator, and with those 2 people there, like, yeah, man, if seals could eat people, I think he could eat both of them. This is Chief, who was in charge of the tech team. Fantastic guy. There is a rumor that he once coughed up a whole sausage. I don't know if it's true. I'm pretty sure it's true. I think that's where that one came from. These are the first seals that show up, very aggressive. They really like to shout at you as you're walking around. This was my everyday view out my window. This was me finding a shirt that was too small for me. Oh dear, I've jumped to the end. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, it's good that I'm jumping forward anyway, so that's good. So yeah, after refueling, we'd usually have the day off because we were working through the night to get that done, so it was a good opportunity to unwind. These are some great photos we had of this is when we were heading out for a boat trip. And I always think, you know, the photos that I've taken, a lot of it, they're shown very, very white, but actually everything's quite blue there. And so I tried to kind of adjust my photo settings to kind of pick up some of the blueness of it, which I think that's probably the closest to what the color actually looks like when you're there. We have to get on boats, fantastic. These guys just do a fantastic job. They work really hard, but then also on a weekend, they'll do a recce trip as well. So we got to go out, get really close to some humpback whales. They're within touching distance. Absolutely, yeah, I never thought that'd be something I'd ever get to do. More fur seals being very aggressive, but then this is kind of towards the end of the season. So at the end, we had an opportunity to, oh, I've done the same thing again, have a bit of a karaoke night, which was great. So everyone gets together, has a good time. I've had an opportunity to do a bit of mountain climbing with these guys. There's Min and Kristen, who took me out and took me up to ride a Sky-Blu out and then climb a mountain and have a look across. And you know, it's not something that everyone gets to do as a summer person who's just staying for summer. They do winter trips for people that are staying there over the winter. But you know, I managed to get an opportunity to kind of go out and do some of these fun things that I wouldn't necessarily get to do. And we had something, you know, just sitting up on the top of there and looking across and just seeing the absolute desolation of the place. And so on the last night, the SDA had come back in, and so me and my friend Alfie, we spent a bit of time up at the memorial where the cross was, and we just sat there and had an opportunity to, the SDA was just lighting up the icebergs as they were coming in to make sure, you know, they weren't going to get hit by anything. The whale song was there, it was absolutely beautiful. We had a lovely time. Alfie really had a great time by the look of it. And so, yeah, then I'm saying goodbye to my friends. So that's goodbye to Logan, and this is goodbye to the team. So we're on the SDA at this point, and they always like to give us a good send-off. And this is the view from the SDA, very quiet. This is, I'd often go up on an evening and go and sit at the top just to see, it was very quiet. It's a really place to go and chill out. During those times, other times, you know, we did find that the weather would get really bad. So it doesn't look quite as bad as it felt in these photos, in this video, but it was pretty wild. So coming through probably some of the most dangerous waters in the world. on the Sir David Attenborough. And we had a really good time though. Like all the guys are together, and everyone else that's there, and we're all sat and having a good laugh at how dangerous it is. Because that's what you're going to do, right? What else are you going to do? And then we flew. We disembarked at the Falkland Islands, and we had a day or two there. And that was kind of the end of it. And then I flew home and flew to Manchester. So that was my time in Antarctica. If anyone feels like that's something they would want to do, I mean, if I can do it, you guys, the opportunity's there. Just check out the BAS website. I kind of imagine that everyone here would be, probably a good person that would fit in well there. If you're going to come and spend all this time in a field, you've got the resilience already. If you're interested in all this stuff, there's going to be a job there that might be aligned to what you do already. There's a lot of, there's an IT job, there's electrical jobs, there's plumbers, there's scientists, there's everything. So I'll be at the Q&A tent in a bit. So if you do want to come and talk to me about anything, I've skipped out so much there. But I do feel like I've bored all my friends with these stories for so long, and this is me drawing a line under it. So this is the last time I'll be at the Q&A session, and after that, I'll never mention this again. But thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate it.